Hello everyone, this is Dr. Parley Anderson. I'm a physical therapist here in Reno, Nevada. So for those of you watching this, welcome. Today I am giving out advice on what to do since people are now staying at home a lot. They're working from home, they're studying from home, they're schooling from home, and we've been doing that in Nevada for almost a month, and in some other states even longer, and some not as long, but most people now are having to shelter in place, and that means staying at home a lot. And when we stay at home a lot, we tend to sit a lot, and sitting chronic sitting can have a lot of negative effects on your body, on your joints, on your muscles. So to help all of you out during this sheltering in place time, this pandemic time, I am offering you my expertise for helping you get through this and keeping your body healthy and happy. So we're sitting a lot, and that can lead to problems. And so the advice I'm handing out today is some simple and effective exercises, mobility exercises, range of motion stuff, to help combat the effects of all this sitting we're doing. So let's take a look at what sitting does to your body. So I'm gonna have my assistant, Brianna, go ahead and sit, and then I'm gonna show you guys some of the stuff that happens. So Brianna, go ahead and grab this chair that I was in, and just sit comfortably, and sit kind of on the edge of the chair so people can see you. And now I want you to kind of overemphasize sitting, meaning kind of slouch a little bit and look straight ahead. So when you're sitting for long periods of time, what happens is your neck tends to move anteriorly, move forward. So let your chin kind of drift forward a little bit. It can be down a little bit too. Shoulders, go back to good posture. See how the head drifts posteriorly, shoulders roll back, now slump forward. Shoulders tend to roll forward. Now sit tall again. It's normal to have a little bit of an inward curve to your low back, to your neck. There you go. And go ahead and slouch a little bit. See how you kind of lose some of that curvature, inward curve, the cervical spine of the neck and the lumbar spine of the low back, and then that middle back tends to actually round out a little further. Now sit up nice and tall again, and then slouch again. Good. Moving down towards the hips are in a flexed position, and if they're in that position for long periods of time, they can become tight and stiff into a slightly flexed position. So we'll show you some good stuff, some good exercises, range of motion stuff to help with that. And your knees are in a flexed position, and sustained periods of that can make it difficult to fully straighten your knees. So we're going to go ahead, and I'm going to show you these, what I call my top 10 postural sitting exercises, to help combat some of these postural changes that sitting is doing to a large percent of our population. And these exercises are simple, they're easy. Let's go ahead and switch back to me. And they're designed to do with minimal equipment and to be done at home. So what do you need to do all these exercises that I'm going to show you? One, you need a wall or a doorway, like this. You need a floor. We'll use this as our floor, my table. You need a chair. This will be my chair. And then you need a stick, or a broom, or a mop, or a Swiffer, or I don't know, a golf club. Since golf courses are closed, you can use a golf club. And that's all you need. So everybody should have those. Normally have those at home, and so you don't need to go out and get any extra equipment for the exercises. They're easy, they're effective, and they don't take that long to do. And the type of mobility exercises I'm showing are dynamic stretching, dynamic mobility, meaning you're moving during the stretch, you're not just holding the stretch. So these are my top 10 exercises, and let's go through them. And Bree, I want a forward and sideways view of the exercises. The first one is cervical spine retraction, and what you're going to do is you're going to sit on the edge of a chair, and you're going to relax, and you're going to look horizontal with your chin in a resting neutral position. And then you're gonna use a hand or both hands, doesn't matter, and you're gonna push your chin straight back for a stretch. You can use postural positioning to help. And this is called a chin tuck or a cervical spine retraction. And since this over-exaggerated kind of forward head when we sit on the computer, sit and watch TV, sit and play with our cell phone, stuff like that, this retraction kind of directly combats that forward head position. And again, it can be one hand, it can be two hands. Don't resist this, let your chin move, don't fight it. Don't push up, don't push down. Push straight horizontally. Now, let's say you do that for a few days and you're like, okay, this exercise is good, but it's not, there's probably something more I can do. There's a progression of this stretch that you can do, and it's an easy progression, and it's called cervical retraction with extension. So you're still doing the cervical spine retraction, but now we're going to add some extension motion to it. So same kind of, relaxed posture, neutral position, hand on chin. You're still doing that full retraction. And then you're going to let your head roll back, and as it rolls back, you can give it a little bit of extra stretch by putting your fingers or your thumb under your chin. So it's retraction, 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 roll back, easy roll, and then give it a little extra push, and then come back and restart the stretch. What's important about this one is that you do a full retraction. Don't cheat yourself and go right into extension right away. Go retraction, 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 retraction. And then just roll into extension, extension, and then you can give it a little extra push. Your torso should remain still, so you don't want to drift forward and back while you do this. It's all cervical spine mobility. And then easy roll into extension. So those two are good cervical spine exercises. We'll kind of work our way through our spine and then hit a few of the major joints. The next one is good for upper back or thoracic spine exercises. And all you need is this chair. Now this is a full height chair, and this is why you need pillows, because you need to arch your upper back over the chair. And when you do this, you want to scoot all the way back as far as you can into the chair. Grab both elbows right in front of you. And then what you're going to do is you're going to lift your elbows and tilt your upper back over the top of the chair, and you're going to let your head kind of lead you. Head and elbows will lead. Let's get a front view too, Bree. So grab your elbows, and then lift your elbows and let your head tilt back, and then roll your upper back over the chair for a stretch. Hold a second, and then come back to neutral. That's thoracic extension in sitting. If you have a chair with a lower, a 3/4 height chair, that's ideal. Because you want that pivot to be right between the shoulder blades. In my females, I tell them right around the broad line is a good barometer, good measure to get that stretch right in the middle of the upper back. So that's cervical and thoracic spine. Now we're going to hit the lumbar spine. And there's a couple different ways. With the lumbar spine, remember in posture, the tendency is to kind of lose this inward curve, you know, because we tend to do that for hours and hours and hours. And eventually it can become problematic, stiff, and sore. So a good stretch to do is called lumbar extension. You can do it in prone, lying down. And depending on how this feels and how stiff you are, this might be a good stretch for you. Just kind of hold this position for a little bit. That puts some extension stress and kind of helps restore that lumbar curve, that inward curve of the low back. Now maybe this isn't enough. Maybe you need to do what's called elbow press-ups. What's important about these press-ups that you do is you totally relax your hips and low back. Don't do a plank. It's not a core exercise, it's a mobility. You're working on restoring more mobility to that lumbar spine. To help your hips relax, you can kind of let your hips kind of drift in and out a little bit, roll a little bit. And then depending on how this feels, you can try a full press up, where you're locking out your elbows, but again, the hips need to be relaxed and not coming off the floor. That's kind of getting close to my limits there, as far as how far I can go into extension. But again, find that comfortable position where you're getting a good stretch to that low back. Now, if you have problems with your arms or being on your stomach, you can do an alternate exercise called lumbar extension in standing. And for this, I recommend a full height chair, a couch, sometimes a sink, a counter might work. But you don't want this to be too high or too low when you do this, because you want to have a nice support for your hips. And if the chair is too high, it'll look like that. If the chair is too low, it's going to be really hard to kind of stabilize the body and do the stretch. So something that should hit, close to mid to upper hip region would be great. And keep your heels flat. Use your hands to kind of support. And then just let your body drift into lumbar extension. Let your back kind of tilt backwards a little bit. Again, don't fight it, just relax while you do the stretch. And again, these exercises are stretch on, stretch off. Meaning you only hold them for a couple of seconds at the end stretch. And then you just repeat it in sets of like 10, 12. So that's for your low back. So we hit the spine. Now we're gonna hit the shoulders, the hips, and the knees, some of the major joints. For your shoulders, again, kind of that, the shoulders tend to roll forward. And so we want to kind of battle that with some exercises to help that. And the first one is shoulder extension. And what you want to do is let your hand hang at the side. Find your stick, your broom, your mop, your Swiffer. And then you want to push your arms straight back for a stretch. This is shoulder extension. And people ask me how far you should stretch, and I say enough where you feel a stretch or you feel a strain to the muscles in the joint being stretched, but not so much that it hurts. More strain than pain when you do these exercises. And there's an alternate way. Here I'm moving my shoulder, or my arm, on my torso, on my body. But I can also maybe move my torso on my arm. And that's why you need this kind of doorway door jamb. And what you do here is you grab the door jamb and point the thumb straight down, and then you turn and face the opposite way. And again, depending on how much of a strain it is, you can adjust your position. And then the stretch is to do a little mini squat. And here you want to kind of lean into the doorway a little bit to kind of stabilize the arm. So I'm kind of leaning back and down for a stretch, not so much that it hurts. If you have to go all the way down to feel the stretch, just bring the arm a little bit higher. But if you're up too high and you can't move it, then drop it down and you get that mobility through the stretch. Again, thumb down and lean backwards a little bit for the stretch. So either of those will kind of help restoring that motion of shoulder extension. A lot of the sitting stuff, strain tends to be, kind of through here, kind of more the front or side of the shoulders. That's why that stretch is effective. The second shoulder stretch I recommend is called internal rotation. And what you want to do is put your knuckles on your spine, and then put your stick, your broom, into your hand. And then that's your starting position. And then with your upper hand, you're going to pull upward, and you're going to relax, in this case my right arm, and let it drift up my back, right along my spine. enough where you feel a stretch or a strain, and then release the tension. Stretch on, stretch off. Some people are, you can be a little stiffer, and it's going to be a little harder, and start a little lower. And then as it loosens up, you just kind of work it up higher and higher as the stretch progresses, as movement improves. This is another good stretch to, bring that shoulder back into proper position from that chronic forward shoulder sitting position. All right, so those two stretches are good for the shoulder. Then let's talk about the hips. So hips are in a flex position, so they can get real tight through the muscles that flex the hip flexors, and the joint itself can kind of become stiff where it doesn't want to move through its full range of motion, especially with what we term hip extension. So a good exercise is to work on hip extension. Here's where the pillows also come in handy. And you want to have a couple pillows for cushioning your knee. And then you want to have some sort of support on the opposite side of the hip being stretched. I'm going to stretch my right hip into extension, so I want to have something to support on my left side. And what you do is you put your right knee, just doing the right hip, on the pillows. That's the target hip to be stretched. And then bring your left knee, left leg out in front of you, so that it's well out in front of those pillows. And then you hold on for support and balance. And then really what you're going to do is you're going to drive your left knee forward, and then you're going to keep your torso nice and straight, and then you're going to let your hips kind of sink a little bit as you drive that opposite knee forward. And you can see how this is driving my right hip backwards into a good extension stretch. Once I've done this for a few days and my body's used to it, I can give a little overpressure with my right hand and push that stretch a little bit farther. What's important about this is that you have that opposite side leg well out in front of you. This will kind of negate your ability to do the stretch. And then also keep your torso not only nice and straight, but exaggerated, even leaning backwards a little bit. And you'll feel that stretch as your hips sink down towards the floor and that opposite knee drives forward. Again, stretch on, stretch off, repetitions. How much and how often? I would do these at least once a day, at least while we're homebound. Sometimes even twice a day, depending on the mobility of the joint. All right, good. So hip extension. Now we're going to do what I call a figure four stretch. And for this one, this is like a combination knee and hip stretch. You'll feel some stretching of the hip, you feel some stretching of the knee, and so if I want to do my figure four for my left hip, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my left foot over my right knee. If that's comfortable, I'm going to hold, with my right hand, I'm going to hold my ankle to my thigh, and then with my left hand, I'm going to push my left knee down, not only down, but also outward. And ideally, you're sitting on the edge of the chair when you do this, and you can play with the position of your right foot when you're doing your left hip. So it should be fairly comfortable starting position, and then you just push. Stabilize here, and then you just hold. And then you're mobilizing, you're doing the stretch really with the left hand to the inside of the left knee. This stretches the outer part of the knee, outer part of the leg, and the outer part of your hip. Now what if just simply getting the leg up here is too hard, maybe it's too stiff, or it just hurts too much to get that foot all the way up? You can do what I call figure 2 stretch, where you just rest your right heel on your left foot and then do the mobilization with the left hand. Maybe this is your starting position. And then as it loosens up, you can do stuff like this, and then this, and then finally that. So this is called figure 4, stretching the outer part of the knee and outer part of the hip. And then lastly, so my knees are in flexion. They're in flexion 8-10 hours a day. You do that a lot, it might be kind of hard to get the knees fully straight. They start to stiffen up with a little bit of flexion, and you're not able to get that good full range of motion into extension for the knees. So a good stretch to do for your knees when you're home a lot and sitting a lot is sit on the edge of the chair, pancake your hands over your thigh, not on the knee itself, but above the knee, on the lower thigh. And then what you do is you drive that knee down towards the floor by leaning forward, getting your body weight over your shoulders, keeping your elbows straight. And you see how I have my leg kind of turned slightly outward? Sometimes that allows for a better stretch than if I keep it totally in neutral. But you play with it and find the position that's most comfortable for you. Push, release. Push, release. What you don't want to do is you don't want to push this way. You're not doing this motion. You're pancaking and you're pushing down towards the floor, forcing those knees straight, the knees straight. Hold for a couple seconds, then release. And so try doing these stretches once a day. Do like, what I say, like do it in sets, do it in repetitions. And maybe start with just doing one set of each exercise, maybe 10 or 12 times, and going through and doing it for your neck, your upper back, your low back, for your hips, for your shoulders, for your knees, and then working your way up. And it shouldn't take you that long to get through the exercises, the mobility exercises, but again, it can be very highly helpful in terms of preventing kind of joint stiffness and the aches and pains, soreness and stiffness that's inevitably going to be coming to our bodies as we stay at home and shelter in place and spend a lot more time in our day sitting. So try those. If you have any questions, of course, you can reach me here on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, and I'm also gonna tag some of my favorite health and fitness and nutrition and lifestyle experts. So if you need help with other things like how do I best eat, how do I best exercise at home, what else can I do while I'm at home? There's a lot of different options and experts to help us get through this pandemic. Hopefully we can start getting out soon, but in the meantime, this is a good place to start. I'm also going to add joint by joint videos, like what do you do if your neck's really an issue? What do you do if your knee's really an issue? And showing you several different ways for each joint that you can not only stretch, but then also how do I best strengthen each joint. And I will show you the proper progression of exercises for this. So thanks for listening, and hopefully you can apply a little bit of what you learned today to your own body and stay safe, healthy, and hopefully somewhat sane during this crazy time. Thank you.